Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I am your host, Chris Tutela, here to help you live an iron life, build an iron body, build an iron mind, build an iron business. And I just got back from our Iron Business Mastermind weekend where Joe DeFranco and I put together an event. It was a 2-day event. We had gym owners from around the world come out. A good handful of those guys are in our mastermind. They've been working with us for a couple of years. And some of those guys just came out for the weekend event to learn, to help grow their businesses. And what a fucking awesome time, man. I have to say, it's one of my favorite things. And I will pat myself and Joe on the back. I think that this was definitely the best one that we've ever ran. It was definitely a major upgrade. So normally we've been running these events out of Joe's gym, which is a great Jersey spot. But this was just a different vibe. We ran this one out of the MC Hotel over here in Montclair, New Jersey. We had the view of the city. Dinner and all that stuff was at the hotel. So shout out to the MC Hotel for great accommodations. The room was awesome. The stay was awesome. The restaurant, the food, everything about the event was really, really just lights out, tremendous. Couldn't say enough good things about them. And the event itself, I think what's really cool about what we do is that not only are we giving you, strategies and tactics to grow and build your gym and to really master the art of high-level group training and coaching, but man, it is the bonds that are built, the relationships that are made, the friendships that will truly last a lifetime. One of the really cool things was after the event was over, a lot of the guys that we have been working with now for a couple of years, they've all become friends and they went out to dinner. They connect with one another. They're always busting each other's balls. It's just such a great vibe. And I think we've really built a culture like no other for gym owners. I could proudly say that, what we've built is something really special. And it's cool to see the evolution of this, being in business now for myself for the last, decade and a half, building my gym, and now Joe and I partnering up to build the Iron Business Blueprint and the Mastermind. It's just really cool to see how business evolves over time, and you get that experience running a gym for as long as I have and doing online coaching, but then getting into the business coaching space almost 3 years ago now. It's just really cool to see the growth of it. So just shout out to all the guys who came out to the Mastermind weekend. I'm actually rocking this gear right here, Heavy Metal Muscle. Shout out to Eddie Fleury, owns Heavy Metal Muscle over in Rhode Island. Always great to rock the gear that our clients bring us. So shout out to you, Eddie. Thank you, sir. But yeah, so just getting settled, and figured what better way to kick off this podcast episode than answering your questions that you guys dropped me on IG. So every Tuesday, I always give you guys the chance to ask me a question. I answer them on Instagram, but then I like to dive into, answering these on the podcast as well. So let's get into it, shall we? So first and foremost, okay, what's the best quad exercise for a 43-year-old with cranky knees? So I think the answer really depends on what's going on with your knees in the first place. So I don't want to just give you general advice if I don't know exactly what's going on. But I will say, to give you a blanket statement here, reverse sled drags are great for the knees overall. And also, I really like Spanish squats with heels elevated. If you guys don't know what that is, you're going to wrap a band around an upright, like on a rack, and then you're going to put, you're going to loop your legs through the band, so they're kind of wrapped around your knees. You're going to elevate your heels on some type of a slant board or like a prime wedge or something like that. And then you load it by, just kind of holding a dumbbell in front of you like you would with a goblet squat, letting the knees travel beyond the toes. So we're really emphasizing the quad. Those are really great. And those would be my top two for, building the quads if you have cranky knees. So let's see. I've been a personal trainer for 9 months. Any tips on how to grow my book? Well, we could definitely spend a lot of time on this one. So you've been a personal trainer for 9 months. The first thing that you have to do is become obsessed with becoming a master of your craft. You got to get really fucking good at what you do. So that means practicing what you preach, living the fucking lifestyle, but learning from other experts and industry leaders. Hopping on a plane to attend their seminars or events or workshops or certifications, like my brother Joe DeFranco and his partner Smitty. They run the CPPS, one of the best training certifications out there. Go take that certification. Get around people who are doing what you want to do. Learn from them. I want you to read as much as you can. I want you to watch videos. I want you to take certifications. I want you to do everything that you can to improve. Every single day, move the needle. And back to the first thing that I said, practicing what you preach. Remember that the gym is your lab. So when you're applying shit on yourself, that's going to be one of your best teachers. Now you're also learning how you feel going through, whether it be certain training modalities or nutrition protocols, whatever. Now, when you are giving those things to your clients, you have an idea of how they might feel when they're going through it. So now you're using your clients as guinea pigs as well as yourself. So that's step one. Now, I forgot who I'm quoting here, but I'm quoting Arnold, but Arnold was quoting someone, and Ted Turner, I think it was. But the quote is, early to bed, early to rise, work like hell, and advertise. So as you are becoming a master of your craft, you have to learn how to get the word out about what you're doing. You don't want to be the world's best kept secret, right? So document everything that you do, learn how to market and put yourself out there. You're also going to want to learn how to sell, because if you're doing great work and you're becoming a great trainer, you're marketing yourself, that means you're going to start getting leads. But if you don't know how to sell them into your program, if that's kind of clunky, then you're still going to struggle. It's not going to help you grow your book. So you need to learn how to acquire new clients. So become really fucking good at what you do. That never stops. Market your ass off, put yourself out there, learn online, offline, and internal marketing strategies like we teach you in the Iron Business Blueprint, and learn how to sell. So learn how to handle objections, learn how to sell the invisible, because that's essentially what people are buying from you. If I'm going to sell you an iPhone, here's the iPhone. You could see it, you could feel it, you could hold it. When you're selling fitness, you have to understand that you're selling a result, you're selling an outcome, and that is invisible at the moment. So you have to get really good at selling the invisible. And once you do that, that's how you start growing your book. So hopefully that helps. Will the Giants make the playoffs next season? Well, I sure as hell fucking hope so, because it's been a brutal, is it a decade now? I know they had the one playoff game in there a few years ago, but I think that with Harbaugh coming in and with the young talent that they have, I think that they have the potential to make the playoffs. So I'm going to be a yes. I think the New York Giants will be in the playoffs next season. Okay. Let's see. How do you manage running 2 businesses, fitness, family time, jujitsu, and still have time? Good question. So, all right. I think the first thing that you need to do is create a schedule for yourself. So, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you could literally work 24 hours a day. And a lot of that work might not be the work that actually moves the needle on your business. A lot of it is just busy work. And as business owners, a lot of us get caught up in doing everything, the needle moving work and the busy work. Busy does not necessarily mean effective, right? So you have to focus on and gain clarity on what is the most important work that only you can or should be doing in your business. So, for example, this podcast right now, only I can do this podcast. I cannot delegate this task and have somebody else do this podcast. However, admin work is a no-brainer, right? So if I have failed payments or members want to go on hold for my gym or cancel their memberships, stuff like that, that's not the stuff that moves the needle on my business. That's stuff that I have an admin on my team doing. So you have to understand the tasks that are yours, the tasks that you need to delegate, the tasks that you need to automate, and we could use things like AI or go high level automations, shit like that, and the tasks that can completely be eliminated that you no longer have to do. Maybe they were important a few years back, but they're no longer important. So I like to look at that stuff quarterly and say, all right, what am I doing on a daily basis or a weekly basis? Which tasks truly belong to me, and which tasks can I delegate, automate, or eliminate? Shout out to Craig Ballantyne, who taught me that. So I think that's an important thing first and foremost. And then it's, setting a standard for your life. So it's harder for me to miss a training session than it is for me to go train. I've been training long enough where this is such a habit for me that it's not even about like people talk about discipline, and I value discipline. It's one of my core values. But I'm not going to say that it's my discipline that gets me to the gym these days to train. It's the habits that I've developed over time. And in the early days, I had to really use discipline. But now, even if I'm fucking exhausted or if I don't feel like it, I'm going to the gym no matter what, because it's just who I am. It's part of my daily habits. It's harder for me to miss a training session than it is to actually go through one of those hard days. So it's building habits, it's creating structure, using discipline in the early days, and in your business, there's definitely things you have to use discipline for, because in business, there might be shit that you don't feel like doing, but it is a needle moving thing. It might be like a tough conversation or creating a system. Things that are not that exciting, but they have to be done. You might have to use discipline in order to make those things happen. So discipline, structure, and then the big thing is time management. So when you look at the things that prevent people from being successful, it's the 3 Ds, right? Doubt, delay, and distraction. One of the big things for most people, especially these days, because of this fucking thing, is distraction. You have text messages, you have calls, emails, social media. There's so much noise to distract you these days that you could really get caught up in that and really start wasting time. So you have to be methodical about your schedule and not allowing your phone, for those of you that are listening, to distract you. Time blocking when you're going to be checking text messages and not just reacting. Time blocking when you're checking emails. If you're going to put up a social media post, that should be scheduled. So the more you could schedule these things, the more you could honor your schedule and time block like a professional, the more you'll be able to get these things done. And like the saying goes, if you guys know Jocko, discipline equals freedom, right? That discipline, that structure, those habits that you build will create that freedom in your life to spend more time with your family, to travel, or do whatever it is that you want to do in your life. So that's how I've created time. That's how I've been able to manage things, even while running two different businesses. That's how I do it. And I also make sure that I set up my businesses in a way where they don't require all of my focus and attention all day, every day. The business model, that is. And then for the tasks that I need to delegate, I simply delegate them. So hopefully that helps and answers your question there. All right. Moving on. Where are we at? Okay, so my gym has been stuck at $15,000 a month for the last 2 years. Tips for more leads. Okay. My first question for you is, are you sure that leads are the problem? Because a lot of people think that leads are the problem, but once we get into dissecting your business, a lot of times there's some hidden revenue, some untapped revenue that we could get into, and it doesn't really have to do with the amount of lead flow. That doesn't mean that leads aren't the issue for you. They very well could be, but it's not always the number one thing. So the first thing I would like to look at are your current systems and operations, like how are you taking payments? Are you still collecting checks or cash or Venmo payments or PayPal? Or you have like a monthly recurring system? Are you selling packages or are you just billing monthly? Some of those things, like chasing people for payments and selling packages, that becomes a nightmare because every time a package runs out, you then have to put your sales hat back on, resell the person, and that just becomes a nightmare. A simple shift that we help a lot of our gym owners that we work with make is shifting to monthly recurring revenue. Or monthly recurring billing. Excuse me. My brain is completely shitting on me right now. Setting up a monthly recurring revenue model or recurring billing model. So rather than having to sell packages, you're just billing their cards every single month. That alone allows you to grow much faster because most people with that model will stick around, and you don't have to worry about chasing people for payments and stuff like that. I also want to look at your pricing. A lot of gym owners are really undercharging. You're devaluing yourself. And if you do that, we're leaving a lot of revenue on the table. So we have to look at a few things like that. Now, if your leads are a part of the problem, then we have to look at your marketing systems, your lead generation systems. So I like to look at client acquisition as lead generation, lead nurture, and then sales. Your lead generation, that's going to be your online, offline, and internal marketing that I mentioned earlier. Online marketing split into two categories, organic and paid. Then you have your offline stuff, that's becoming the mayor of your community. Internal, that's generating referrals strategically and having a plan for each of these things every single month, okay? Looking at the year and knowing, okay, we're running this play for this front-end offer on these months. We're running this referral campaign. We are collaborating with this business, and this is how we're going to help them. And then eventually, here's how they will help us. And having that built out, I like to look at this 1 year in advance. So every 90 days, when you have your quarterly meeting with your team, and if you are your team right now, every 90 days, you could sit down and you'll have a plan that you could execute for the quarter. And that's what we like to help our gym owners do, is gain clarity around what that game plan looks like and how to generate more leads, how to nurture leads more effectively, and then how to sell them into your program. When it comes to lead nurture, this is where a lot of gym owners drop the ball. They don't follow up nearly enough, and they think that like one text or one phone call is going to be what gets people in the door. You have to be relentless in your follow-up. And I know that doesn't excite too many of you listening to this if you own a gym, but it's just the truth. Like if you want to grow, you have to nurture. And that's where, having automation set up, having an AI bot now that can handle a lot of your text messages, where now you or somebody on your team just needs to call the leads. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of money if you have a bot or somebody managing your leads. Sales, learning how to sell, like I mentioned earlier, that's going to be a game changer for you, learning how to sell the invisible. All right. So hopefully that helps you gain some more clarity on how you could grow your gym beyond 15 grand a month, because you have a lot of untapped potential probably sitting right in front of you. All right. Next question. How does one lose the last 15 pounds? All right. So losing the last 15 pounds gets a little bit tricky. Now, first, let me say this. I can't tell you how many guys come to me over the years and say, I want to lose these last 15 pounds, or I just want to lose 15, 20 pounds. But in reality, they have like 30 or 40 or more pounds to lose. But they think if they lose 15, they're going to have abs. So a lot of people are very, very, very disconnected with how much fat they'll actually need to lose. So you might lose 15 pounds and you'll be like, oh shit, like I have a lot more weight to lose. So just to manage your expectations there. Now, if you truly have 15 pounds to lose, so let's just say you're 15 pounds of fat away from having visible abs and, being down to like, 10% body fat or less. And less when we get to single digits, like that's pretty fucking lean, by the way. But when if that's what you're looking for, then you have to understand what got you here probably won't get you there. So it's hard for me to answer because I don't know what you have been doing to get to this point. But if you are, that close to seeing visible abs, this is where, stuff like carb cycling, I think is a must. It's my go-to, where you're splitting up between low carbohydrate days and high carbohydrate days. And typically there's different ways that you can do this to get shredded. What I will normally do is go 3 days of low carbohydrate, and then every fourth day cycle in a high carb day where I'm making up numbers right now, but let's say you double your carbohydrate. So let's say you're doing 150 grams or 200 grams on your low carb days, and then every fourth day you're doing 300 or 400 grams. And obviously that's going to be dependent on you and your body weight and how much muscle you have and your activity levels and all those things. So don't just take those numbers and run with them, because it depends on you and a few other factors. But a carb cycle is definitely the way to go. Now, you have to look at things like how much fat you're consuming, because if your fat's too high, you're going to be stuck. You have to look at the quality of your food that you're eating, assuming that you're eating super clean already. Then we can just make the tweaks to your carb cycle. But if you're still sprinkling in cheat meals and shit like that once a week, that's not going to be what gets you leaner. People don't understand that the leaner you are, the harder and more strict your diet needs to be to get shredded. If you're losing a big chunk of fat and you have a lot of body fat to lose, you could get away with some more flexibility in those early stages. But as you get tighter and tighter, you have to tighten that diet up that much more to get to that level of lean that you want to be at. And you have to be a little bit more meticulous with your calories, understanding specific portions and your macros, and like I said, carb cycling, things of that nature. So first step is to get clear on how much body fat you actually have to lose, what the goal is, and then looking a little bit more deeply into where you are and what's that next step going to look like for you. All right, so kind of impossible to give you a straightforward answer because it always depends, but hopefully that helps. All right. Let's see, another business question here. So I know I have to work on the business as a gym owner, but I do everything else and can't. All right. So this takes us back to a few questions prior where they asked, how to manage running businesses and family time and all that stuff. And I talked about automating, delegating, and eliminating. So you have to understand what your most important tasks are. And if you are already at capacity, let's say, so you're a one-man show. I think that's what you said there. You're a one-man show. You're doing everything yourself. It's going to be very difficult for you to scale at this point. So now it's time to start building your team. So if you're already bringing in enough revenue, even if it's a part-time person, we got to get somebody in to get some of that work off of your plate. And that even means coaching training sessions. If you're coaching every session, every day of the week, you're going to be fried. You're going to be burning the candle at both ends. You're not going to have time for this stuff. If you're doing admin work, it's going to be hard for you to, on top of the coaching especially, you're coaching all day and then you're doing admin work and billing and managing failed payments and shit. Man, you're working on the stuff that's not going to move the needle. Now, I'm not saying that coaching is not important. I'm not saying that you need to stop that entirely, especially if you love it. But if you're spending all of your time coaching and programming and writing meal plans, you're going to be spinning your wheels. So you have to start working on the business, which is why you need to start building a team to start managing some of the training sessions, the programming, the meal plans, and admin to manage the admin work. So now that's how you free up your time to do what you need to do to grow the business. Because all that work is important, right? Customer support is important. Billing is important. Running the training sessions, obviously important. That's part of the fulfillment, the delivery of your service. But it doesn't mean that you have to be the one that's doing all that stuff just because it's important. You have to understand the power of delegation. And when you free up more of your time, that's how you could step into the business owner role and really build the vision of your dreams and not be a slave to your business all day, every day, because that is a very easy thing to fall into where you're doing everything, you're spending all of your time and your resources and your energy on things that are important, but not necessarily your role anymore as a business owner. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Was there one more in here? I think that just about covers it, guys. So listen, I hope that gives you clarity on the questions that you needed answered. If you have questions, again, my Instagram is @Chris_Tutela. Just go there every Tuesday or at least once a week. I am taking questions that you could drop. I'll answer them on Instagram. I'll also answer them on this show. And this way I could hopefully give you the clarity that you need to develop the body, the mind, the business, the life that you are looking to build. So I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time today and tuning in and listening. If you have a quick second and you could leave a 5-star review on iTunes, that would mean the world. If you could share this episode with a friend, somebody who could help, I would really, really appreciate it. That's how we grow the show. That's how we get our message out there. And if you are a gym owner who is looking to grow their gym beyond $20,000 per month, we are now taking applications for our next 90-day Iron Business Blueprint, where you will work directly with Joe DeFranco and myself, and we will help you build the business of your dreams and break the $20,000 per month mark. So if you want to apply for that, just head to ironbusinessblueprint.com, fill out an application, book a call, and then we'll take the next steps. I appreciate you guys. I love you. Thank you for being a part of the show, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.